What's one thing that you guys know about saving or investing now that you wish that you had learned earlier?
I need to save more.
I would say like the power of compounding interest.
All that money I spent at bars and going out when I was younger, I wish I would put that into an index fund.
You've got to plan for the future, that just living paycheck to paycheck is not the way.
Start saving as a child. All the Christmas money, the piggy banks, all those things that we think they're for toys, they're for our future.
The stocks that I had 25 years ago, my God, right now, if I would have not sold those, I probably would be staying at a different hotel today.
One piece of advice you would give to someone that's just starting their investing journey and their saving journey?
Slow and steady and be consistent.
Take advantage of company benefits like 401k and other things.
You think you'll never get older, but you do.
Yeah.
And you can't live on Social Security.
Always follow 52-week highs, and that you own at least one product and that you believe in that product.
Is sports betting or prediction markets a way to grow wealth?
No, not at all.
I feel like there's a lot more risk in prediction markets.
You see Bam Adebayo hit 83. I mean, that I would never guess that happening in a million years. So it's very unpredictable.
I think if you can sleep well at night while doing it, you should do it.
So if I gave you $100 right now and your choices were to invest/save it, put it into sports books or prediction markets, or just simply spend it, what are you doing with $100?
I'm taking my wife out to dinner. Come on.
I would try to 4 times it at least.
Look up the best restaurant in New York and go have a great dinner right now.
I'm betting it. Eagles Super Bowl.
2,000 scoops of ice cream.
Put into S&P 500.
Bet it on the Knicks as the 2027 champions. Let's do it.
All right, Josh Schaefer there talking to Main Street about their financial futures. Back with me, Randy Hipper, Tiffany Smiley, and the aforementioned Josh Schaefer. So, Josh, what stuck out to you the most about talking with those folks?
So two things, Brian, that I'd highlight from that. One, there was one gentleman in the middle there that mentioned if he had held his stocks 25 years ago, he was thinking about how much money he would have had now. So he actually got caught up in the dot-com bubble burst, all the tech stocks that came down at the beginning of 2000. And what he realized was he just had too much of his money that he needed tomorrow allocated to stocks. And then he sort of got very nervous, took them all out, and never wanted to get back in the market. And now he's sitting here 25 years later saying, I wish I was in the market more. Another thing I'd highlight, I love the people that answered the $100 with saying to go do something fun in the city. I just read Jack Rains' new book. It's a new personal finance book out on Amazon called Young Money. So he's 29 years old like me. And he says that he believes that memories compound faster when you're younger, and they compound faster than saving. So if you're talking about $5,000 or $10,000, maybe you should be saving it. But $100? Yeah, go take your wife out to dinner. It's probably going to be pretty fun. You're in New York City. I think that's a fair way to look at it.
All right, what do you think about that, Randy? What did you notice in that clip?
I think what a lot of people just want is to be entertained because they feel like if they just hold on to their money and wait, the purchasing power is going to go down. So why not live now instead of just waiting for later when it might not be worth it?
Tiffany?
I loved it. It's encouraging to hear people talk about finances and money. I think we need to do it more. I think this segment is awesome because our youth need to have these conversations as well. But I like the diversity of it. You know, we all come from different walks of life, and that's what makes the market unique. That's what makes products and entrepreneurship unique, is that you can do and be anything you want in this country. And I think that's what it kind of highlighted.
The words that stuck out to me were be consistent and you're going to get older. Okay, so 2 things that I think are hard to do, right? But it's discipline and thinking for the long term, Josh. And again, I go back to the idea of instant gratification. Are young people wired for that?
I think some young people really want the instant gratification. I mean, we all sort of chuckled at the betting on the Eagles part of it, but I am in the Gen Z demographic, and I certainly have plenty of friends that think about it that way. I think the smart way to think about the instant gratification piece, Barry Ritholtz wrote about this in his personal finance book, How Not to Invest, and I love it. He calls it a cowboy account. A fun account. Maybe 5% of your investable income goes into this fun account. That's where we're going to do prediction markets, and we're going to bet on my Patriots to win the Super Bowl, or I'm going to try and be a stock picker and find the next great AI stock. But separate that from your retirement account, your long-term savings account. I think we need to keep goals in mind when we're thinking about this. What's the money for?
All right, let's lean into this a little bit more because you got younger Americans taking on more risk to boost their income, turning to prediction markets, sports betting, other alternative money-making plays. So this is where a lot of the heat is. This is where a lot of the conversation. there's a lot out there. If you want to talk about how to put your money in a 401k, invest in the stock market, there's a lot of books on that. But in these other spaces, how to think well about sports betting or alternative assets, to go with your cowboy analogy, it feels a little bit like the Wild West. Randy, where do you come down on this?
Listen, Gen Z just loves to be heard. We love when our opinions are heard, and that's why prediction markets do so well, because we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're actually taking part in a poll that people are paying attention to. It's building conversation and engagement. So when we're looking at prediction markets and taking polls, that is more entertainment, and maybe we could just make a few bucks off of that. But when we're also looking at things like the stock market and crypto, for example, and emerging technologies in general, that's forward thinking. We're investing in, like they mentioned in the interviews, products and things that we actually believe in. So I think Gen Z, out of all things, just loves to be motivated.
I love your word entertainment, Randy, because that's what I think for those.
What is TikTok for, Josh?
Right, and for prediction markets, though, think about that as that size of spending. $20 that you would spend to go to the movies, or $10 that you would spend on a burrito. Okay, sure, if you want to go to Kalshi or Polymarket, et cetera, and go spend the $10, I'm cool with that. It's when you mix the investing numbers with it, and you're talking about thousands.
All right, so I want to bring Tiffany in on this, because I think you've got some experience probably with your young kids and prediction markets and so forth. I like what Josh is saying in theory. At some point, you find out I've been eating 100 burritos a week because I'm playing so much in the betting market.
Right.
So from a parental perspective, how do you intersect this?
There's a couple things that I'm picking up on, and number one is, like, money doesn't have to be serious and negative. Like, it can be fun and light, and I think that's what I'm seeing this younger generation embrace. Like, yes, you can have this cowboy account to go have fun, like live life. Money can be a really, really awesome, good thing if you're smart with it. Now, my 19-year-old came home and he said, Mom, I can make more in prediction markets than I can working my 9-to-5 job. And I saw his account. He is very smart, though. He's disciplined. And he wasn't in it to lose money. He knew when to stop. He knew when to quit. He knew when to move. But he said, I can make more doing this. And that's a real truth to his life. But it can change very quickly, too, if you're not disciplined. But to them, like, it's fun. That is a way to engage with your money in an exciting way, in a real way, in a tangible way.
But I'm dying to know, as mom, when he said I can make more money on this, what were the first words out of Mom's mouth?
I was like, whoa.
See, that's what I think.
I mean, you can have fun, but don't have too much fun. But to them, it's like money is liquid and fluid, right? And I kind of mentioned, like, I remember money being, like, held in my hand, goes into my bank account. They don't ever actually see their money.
Yeah. I saw you wanting to get in on this. You were like wanting to high five her son.
No, it's so amazing because it's the gamification of the markets in the way that, like, our parents have not seen that. Again, they had to go through the broker and this guy and this guy. When now we could just literally go on the internet, and even with cryptocurrency, you have games that are tokenized, meaning that those V-Bucks in Fortnite are on the blockchain and they have a tradable value, and even the avatars in your game. So it's the evolution of finance and gaming.
I might need to get a dictionary out right there, because I heard a string of like 4 words that are going to need some definition. But I get this point about it's gratification and there's entertainment there. I would say, Josh, the adults who may not understand the gamification of this or the entertainment aspect have probably seen people who have gamed away some of their money over time, and they have an aversion to gambling versus investing. And I think that's the key. Like, how do you help young people have a healthy perspective?
You have to stay in to get the 10% annually that everyone talks about with the S&P 500. You have to be in it for the down year. You have to be in it for the 3% year, because the S&P 500 never actually goes up 10% a year. It very rarely hits that average, but you get that average over time by just staying the course and doing your dollar cost averaging and putting a little bit of money in over time. But you need to be in the market on a consistent basis to get that nice 401k that everyone talks about that you get 40 years from now. You don't get it if you're trading in, trading out, trying to find a winner. Then that's when you don't really get the benefits and the compound investing that some of the folks are talking about.
In money, there's some time for fun maybe, but there's a time to be boring, and boring can pay off big time if you give it the time to do that. All right, guys, thank you. Randy Hipper, Tiffany Smiley, Josh Schaefer. Awesome conversation. Loved it. Thanks for being here.